Well, Dave is back again.
I signed with CrossFit, and I'm coming back to work for CrossFit.
That video I just showed you was from about a year ago when Dave Castro first came back with CrossFit as a liaison with affiliates, but now he has another new position and popped up on Morning Chalk Up early this morning, who I think has some sort of inside connection to be getting this information before like anyone else. So the Morning Chalk Up's post says, breaking, Justin Bergh out, Dave Castro, new leader of CrossFit Sports Team. And then the caption says, CrossFit HQ's general manager of sport, Justin Bergh, is leaving the company. Effective immediately, Dave Castro will step in as leader of the sports team. So this also came out in an email to affiliate owners. I was watching the Savant podcast's coverage of this, and Matt Souza, who is an affiliate owner, he owns CrossFit Livermore, and he received the email and they put it up on the screen. It is very short, so let me just show it to you if you hadn't seen it quite yet. So this is what it said. Dear affiliates, I'm writing to let you know Justin Bergh will be moving on from CrossFit. Dave Castro will step in to lead our sport team as we prepare to have an amazing 2023 games. We're fortunate to have a talented team and they're working hard to deliver a world-class event. We're looking forward to seeing many of you in Madison soon. Best, Austin. I'm not 100% sure which Austin that is, but this is all very interesting. I will say, I think this is going to upset very, very, very few people. Like, this was a good marketing move by CrossFit. And actually, Susan mentioned that as well.
Now there's this whole new buzz to it. There's a load of conversation coming about what it's going to be like, whether you hate it, whether you love it. The buzz is going to be real and it's going to be leading up. And there'll be more stuff like this talking about it now, right?
But I think it's also really good because there was a huge uproar when Dave was originally fired from CrossFit. I showed you that clip at the beginning of this video, and that was when Dave announced that he was coming back in a different capacity with CrossFit, and now he's back again in a even bigger position. Justin Bergh having this director of sports, very, very big position with CrossFit. He's no longer with CrossFit, period. And Dave Castro is taking on this very forward-facing position. And I think the majority of people, when the firing happened a year and a half ago and CrossFit got rid of Dave Castro, most people were upset to see the loss of Dave Castro. When Dave came back in a smaller capacity, everyone was thrilled that he was back within the CrossFit ecosystem. There are a lot of people who love Dave, and then there are a lot of people who love to hate Dave, but I think almost everyone respects Dave Castro. And while there, I'm sure, are a few people out there who don't want to see him back, I think the vast, vast majority of people are going to be very happy with this decision by CrossFit, by Don Fall, by anyone else who was involved in this decision. And I also kind of wonder how long he's known there's a chance of this happening, because he was like out here posting hints to the open workouts back in like February. So how long has he known that he was going to come back? I don't know. That could be unrelated, but it just kind of interesting that he started doing that again. He didn't do it in 2022 and did it in 2023, and now he is now the head of CrossFit Sport. And then I've also heard some people talking about what was this position, or is this position that Justin Bergh was in and now Dave is in. So I went on Justin Bergh's LinkedIn, which still has him listed in this position, to just read off what he describes this position as. But I will say Dave has been very forward-facing and very involved in the media recently. He has his weekly or almost weekly posts that he does on his YouTube channel. So my guess will be he will give more details about what exactly his position looks like. And when I was at that event a year ago with affiliate owners, he even did that there, trying to let them know what exactly he was doing. I think he'll do that again. He feels very transparent with good and bad. So sometimes it's not stuff we want to hear, but he's always very forward about it. So we'll probably know more about it, but this is what Justin Bergh's LinkedIn said, which, by the way, still lists him in this position. So it says in his about, overlapping experience as GM and executive producer, special emphasis on building teams, events, and tech solutions within the sport and fitness industry, lead strategic vision and financial planning, oversee production and partnerships, values, faith, family, learning, and leadership, comfortable under fire, and then good at puzzles. Okay, so that was weirdly very wordy, but at the same time vague. And I have to be honest, that's kind of how Justin is. Where Dave is very straight to the point, like, you know what Dave wants and how Dave is feeling. That's not what Justin is. Justin was always very ambiguous. When I used to work in Madison, Wisconsin, we covered the CrossFit Games coming to Madison, and I interviewed Justin Bergh for the TV station I worked for there. And I remember his responses being fairly surface level, like not anything I couldn't tell you myself or a less CrossFit savvy reporter could Google and tell you. And it was just broad and not at all Castro-like, just very vague and broad concepts. And that's what it sounds like here for his position. And under the area where it says GM of Sport, which he has been in since January of 2022, it's just a year and 6 months, there are no details of his job. And when he was the general manager of the CrossFit Games, I don't know if those are different positions than GM of Sport and general manager of the CrossFit Games, but from here it looks like it is. Or maybe it's the same position with a different name or some slightly different responsibilities. But it says day-to-day operations for all aspects of the CrossFit Games, executive producer of all competition-related media coverage, all business development for games, licensing for CrossFit Inc. So it would be interesting if some of those things are what Dave is going to have a hand in. I know Dave, even in his old position, which was the director of the CrossFit Games, GM of Sport, director of the CrossFit Games, I guess those are different positions, but they sound like they have some overlapping things. Although I will say that this position does not replace Adrian Bozman's position. Obviously, Justin Bergh was there while Adrian was there. This is someone that I believe Adrian Bozman answers to. Adrian Bozman will go back to answering to Dave Castro. And I don't know how he's going to feel about that. What I do know is the two worked together for a very long time and seem to have a good working relationship. So my hope is this is a pretty seamless transition. I mean, we're only about 6 weeks from the CrossFit Games. But one of the things I am most optimistic about is some of the errors we had this season, in the season, little things in the sports area, like the misloaded barbells at the open announcement with Laura Horvath and Gabby Magala, like the issues with the runners at the semifinals, the issues with the sled pulls at the semifinals. These are not issues Castro accepts. So I think because he is so meticulous, some of these little nagging things that have been bothering a lot of people in the community are less likely to happen. I don't think Dave is the exact person that's handling all of these little things, or has been in the past. I think he delegates a lot of stuff, but he is able to handle a lot of information at once from my perspective. And I think he is going to be a great person to oversee this. And I think we're going to see a tighter ship at the CrossFit Games than we did at semifinals and the Open this year. And he's also a military guy. Tight ships, like, I mean, that's what they do. And also what Dave does is he commands respect. And I think that's the type of leadership that most organizations need, but especially the CrossFit Games with some of the errors we've seen this year.
And when he was there, there was always a little bit of, I don't know how you want to word it, fear, or you want to please daddy, or like for me, it was more on the side of I wanted to please daddy.
So I was actually afraid of Dave at one point, and this is gonna sound funny. I've told this story here once before, but that was when I had a lot less subscribers, so I'm just gonna quick mention it again. So at the 2021 CrossFit Games, if you're not aware, Brooke Wells, she was snatching. That's why I just like raised my arm like that. She was snatching and she dislocated her elbow. I was a volunteer this year. I was on the side of the arena, literally facing Brooke. Watched her elbow dislocate and then watched her writhe in pain on the ground, which only lasted for a few seconds, but believe me, in my brain, like minutes went by. And then they took her into the tunnel where there were already some people working on her, and I was standing right next to this tunnel. That's where I was, holding open the gate that the athletes walked in and out of to get into the arena. So we opened the gate for them to take her out, and then she's in the tunnel with medics, and I think they were trying to get her elbow back in its socket. I could hear her crying, screaming, and then I just looked around at the people around me, and we were masked at that point because it was 2021, so we all had masks on in the arena, and everyone's eyes were just like huge. And all of a sudden I started feeling sweaty, things were getting black, like I couldn't see anything, and I went to get water out of my fanny pack, which we weren't supposed to have, but I like snuck it in the fanny pack just so I had some water, and my hand started shaking. And that was the last thing I remembered. And then I woke up in a squat on the ground. Apparently I fainted and fell on the woman behind me, who then lowered me into a squat, but I dumped the water all over the ground. So more medics come and get me, and they take me in the back to see how I am. And I literally started crying while laying in medical because I dumped my water all over the floor, and I'm like, Dave Castro's gonna be mad. He never found out, I'm sure. He doesn't know anything about this. I am like pretty positive of that. And the medic was like, listen, he's not even gonna notice, you're totally fine. But like, he instills that kind of fear in people, but I've met him a few times. He seems very nice and like a really good guy who loves CrossFit, the sport of CrossFit, and wants to see it grow and become the best it can be. But he commands respect. And he's someone that I think a lot of people want to do well for. Like, you want to make Dave proud. Yeah, I think that that's gonna help straighten out all these little issues we're having in CrossFit, because people are gonna want Dave's approval. And people are gonna want Dave's admiration. Not that he gives it out really easily, but people want that. And I think people wanna work for Dave. I think that this is gonna be really, really good for CrossFit. And I think the timing is kind of great. It's gonna make people really excited. I don't know if how semifinals went factored into any of this. I think overall, semifinals went pretty well. A lot of them sold out, but I think there were some execution errors that had nothing to do with the ticket sales, but with more of what was presented and how things impacted the athletes. And I think we saw that last year at semifinals too, with the issues with the rope climbs and the ropes being different lengths. And people injuring themselves on the ropes as they came down. So I think that these kind of issues are things that Dave will either avoid or face head on in a way we haven't seen from CrossFit over the last 2 seasons, with him not being a part of it. Something a little bit odd about the timing, it makes me think, how long did Justin know this was gonna happen? Justin's last post on Instagram was about CrossFit, was about the semifinals, and was at the beginning of June. So has something happened since then and now? Or is this, been in the works for a while? Like I mentioned, Dave posting hints about the CrossFit Open, the sport of CrossFit, as early as February. Maybe someone was on thin ice and it was just a matter of time. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more. Like I said, Dave is doing all of those things now where he posts a bunch of stuff to his YouTube channel and gives us some insight. I don't think he'll give more insight than he wants to. He's very clever in the way that he disseminates information and only gives what he wants us to know, which I totally respect, but I'll be interested to hear what he says. And like I said, he does give answers. He does respond to things, and when they're important and need to be known by the public, he gives us stuff. He tells us stuff. I think it just comes from a place of really caring and loving this sport, and this being such a huge part of his life post-Marines. Anyway, I just wanted to make a quick video about that because this is probably one of the biggest bits of news we're going to have between now and the games, unless something really crazy happens. But hopefully, this is the craziest, biggest news we have between semifinals and the games. So even though I couldn't get it out right away because I have work and don't do this full time, so I have other things I need to do, I still wanted to get something out for all of you and give you my take on it. And if you didn't notice, wearing my Dave Castro shirt. This is Dave Castro and street parking from the ranch event last year. Street parking is awesome too, but today we're just talking about the Dave Castro. I didn't have just a Dave Castro shirt though, so this is as good as we got. Anyway, thanks for watching. I am super excited to see how this all unfolds. I hope all of you are too. Leave a comment below if you've got something to say about it, or maybe some thoughts, predictions about what we're gonna see next, or why this happened when it happened. Like this video if you had a good time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.